The sleek diplomatic vessel from Earth glided through the star-speckled void toward the massive space station. Captain Sun Li stood on the bridge, her dark eyes reflecting the gleaming structure ahead. The Galactic Council headquarters was truly a marvel, a spinning wheel of metal and light, housing representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations. Remarkable, she whispered, smoothing her uniform. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally found its galactic neighbors. And now, they were invited to join them. Behind her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. Lieutenant Ba monitored communications while Officer Jin kept the ship steady on its approach vector. They shared Captain Li's sense of awe, but also her military discipline. This moment would shape Earth's future for generations. "Captain," Lieutenant Ba called out, "we're receiving docking instructions." "Proceed as directed," Li replied, "and inform Director Kim that we'll be ready for the diplomatic reception in 30 minutes. As the Earth vessel docked with a gentle thud, Captain Li took a deep breath. First contact had happened 6 months ago, when a Council scout ship detected Earth's quantum communications. After initial exchanges, this formal invitation followed. Earth was to be evaluated for membership. The reception exceeded all expectations. Aliens of various forms greeted the human delegation warmly. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms, others walked on multiple limbs, and a few remained in environmental suits. Director Kim Tae-ho, Earth's senior representative, stood tall as he was introduced to the Council leaders. "We welcome Earth to this gathering of civilizations," announced Grand Minister Ilara, a tall being with iridescent skin. "Your species has shown remarkable progress and resilience." Director Kim bowed slightly. "Earth is honored by your welcome. We look forward to peaceful cooperation and mutual growth." The following weeks were filled with tours, presentations, and preliminary negotiations. The humans were shown technological wonders beyond their imagination. Faster than light travel refinements, gravity manipulation, biological engineering that extended lifespans threefold. The Council members seemed generous with their knowledge, offering to help Earth catch up to galactic standards. 3 months later, in a ceremony broadcast to billions across Earth and its colonies, Director Kim proudly signed the treaties that officially made Earth the 28th member of the Galactic Council. Celebrations erupted worldwide. Humanity had found its place among the stars. "This marks a new chapter for our species," Kim announced to thunderous applause. "Together with our galactic neighbors, we will build a future of shared prosperity." Captain Li attended the ceremony in her formal uniform, standing at attention as the Earth anthem played. Yet something troubled her. During her time at the station, she had noticed small inconsistencies, moments when alien representatives thought they weren't being observed. Subtle glances exchanged, conversations that stopped when humans approached. That same evening, far from the celebration, a different meeting took place in the private chambers of the Inner Council. 7 senior representatives gathered around a circular table, their faces illuminated by soft blue light. No recording devices were allowed here. "These humans progress too quickly," said Councillor Trell, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color with his mood. Currently, they glowed a concerned orange. "Their technological advancement over just 3 centuries is unprecedented. It's their emotional responses that concern me most," added Representative Mox, who belonged to a species that had eliminated emotions through genetic engineering centuries ago. "They make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. Unpredictable. Dangerous." High Commander Vorex, the Council's military leader, nodded in agreement. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought among his kind. "Their history is filled with violence. They wage war against themselves over resources, beliefs, even minor differences in appearance. Imagine what they might do to species truly different from them." Grand Minister Ilara, who had welcomed Earth so warmly, now spoke in measured tones. "The treaties are designed with safeguards. We've integrated monitoring systems into all technology transfers, but perhaps additional measures are warranted. Implement Containment Protocol 12A immediately, ordered Vorax. "Full spectrum. We'll guide their development along safer paths." "Agreed," came the unanimous response. None of them noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner of the room, a drone that Lieutenant Ba had quietly modified to record and transmit on frequencies the Council considered too primitive to monitor. Back on Earth, months passed. The initial euphoria of joining the galactic community gradually gave way to confusion and concern. Promised technologies never arrived, explained away by compatibility issues or safety protocols. Applications for new colony permissions faced mysterious delays. Earth ships found themselves restricted to approved routes, supposedly for their protection. Captain Lee, now assigned to diplomatic security, began collecting data on these incidents. The pattern troubled her deeply. During a classified meeting on Outpost 7, she accessed the station's central computer using codes provided by Lieutenant Ba. What she found confirmed her worst fears. Hidden behind layers of encryption were files detailing Containment Protocol 12A, a comprehensive program designed to limit Earth's growth while appearing to support it. The technology transfers were being carefully controlled to keep humans dependent on Council support. Military developments were monitored and subtly sabotaged. Earth's economy was being restructured to rely on galactic supply chains that could be cut off if humans became problematic. Most disturbing was a genetic monitoring program, collecting human DNA samples under the guise of medical exchanges, with notes about potential stabilization modifications for future generations. Lee downloaded everything she could, her hand steady despite her racing heart. This wasn't partnership. It was preparing Earth for subjugation. 3 days later, she met Director Kim in his secure office in Seoul. The windows were open to prevent electronic eavesdropping, and fountains provided white noise against listening devices. "They fear us," Lee said, displaying the evidence on a secure tablet. "Everything we've been experiencing. The delays, the restrictions, it's all part of a containment protocol. They're preparing us for eventual control." Director Kim's face remained impassive as he reviewed the files, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the tablet. "Are you certain this is authentic?" Lieutenant Ba verified the encryption signatures. These came directly from the Council's secure database. Kim set the tablet down and walked to the window, looking out at the city. Seoul had flourished in the months since joining the Council, with new construction and technologies visible everywhere. All of it, Lee now knew, designed to create dependencies. "If this is true," Kim said softly, "we've invited wolves into our home and called them friends. What do we do?" Lee asked. Kim turned, his expression hardening with resolve. "We do what humans have always done when backed into a corner. We fight back. But carefully, intelligently." He picked up the tablet again. "They think they understand us, Captain. They've studied our history, our biology, our technology. But they've missed something fundamental about humanity." "What's that, sir?" A grim smile crossed Kim's face. "When threatened, we don't just get angry. We get creative." 5 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. From the outside, humanity appeared to be thriving. New buildings with alien-inspired architecture rose in major cities. Ships with Council-approved modifications traveled between Earth and its 14 colonies. Trade goods from distant worlds filled markets, and tourists marveled at exotic alien visitors. But Commander Sun Lee knew the truth. She stood at the window of her office in the United Earth Defense Headquarters, watching rain streak down the glass. The building's exterior projected prosperity, but inside, frustration mounted daily. "Commander, the resource allocation report you requested," said Lieutenant Min, placing a tablet on Lee's desk. Lee nodded without turning from the window. "Thank you, Lieutenant." The report told the same story as countless others before it. The human colony on Proxima Centauri had requested mining equipment to access vital minerals. The Council had approved less than half the requested machinery, citing environmental concerns. Meanwhile, the Council Mining Corporation had established operations on the same planet's moon with equipment 10 times more powerful. Similar patterns repeated across human space. Colony permissions faced years of environmental reviews, while council races expanded freely. Human military vessels underwent safety inspections that inevitably resulted in the removal of key defensive components. Earth's economy had been cleverly restructured to depend on council supply chains for essential materials. Commander Lee turned from the window and activated the office's security protocols. Sound dampeners hummed to life, and electromagnetic scramblers ensured no surveillance could penetrate the room. "Is Officer Park in position?" Lee asked. Lieutenant Min nodded. He completed infiltration of council security last month. His cover as a maintenance technician is holding well. And Dr. Yoon's research? Progressing. Commander, she's identified potential physiological weaknesses in 3 of the dominant council species. Lee sat heavily in her chair. What had begun as suspicion had grown into a shadow war. After discovering the council's containment protocols, Lee had built a network of loyal operatives throughout council space. Each was carefully selected and operated with minimal knowledge of the others. Officer Han Park had spent 2 years building a false identity before successfully infiltrating council security. Analyst Ji Choi worked in the communications hub of the Earth Embassy, secretly decoding transmissions between council members. Dr. Seo Yoon had established herself as a leading xenobiologist, using her position to study council species for potential weaknesses. "We received a new transmission from Analyst Choi," Min said, sliding a data chip across the desk. It was embedded in routine diplomatic traffic, high-security encryption. Lee inserted the chip into her secure terminal. Choi's message was brief but disturbing. Council inner chamber discussing timeline acceleration. Project Genesis mentioned repeatedly, attempting to access full details. "Project Genesis," Lee muttered. "Any insights?" "Nothing concrete yet," Min replied. "But based on previous intelligence, we believe it relates to genetic modification programs." Lee's communicator chimed with a priority alert. "Commander, Director Kim requests your presence for an emergency Security Council meeting." 1 hour. The United Earth Security Council convened in an underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. 20 representatives from Earth and its colonies gathered around a circular table. Armed guards stood at every entrance, and the room was regularly swept for listening devices. Director Kim Tae-ho, now showing streaks of gray in his hair, called the meeting to order. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. Commander Lee has new information of critical importance." Lee stood and activated the room's holographic projector. 2 days ago, we intercepted and decoded communications between the inner council members. What we found confirms our worst fears. The hologram displayed translated text and analysis. The Council intends to reduce Earth to a protectorate status within 20 years. They've been systematically undermining our independence while maintaining the illusion of partnership. Murmurs spread around the table as Lee continued. "Most concerning is this reference to Project Genesis. Based on our intelligence, this appears to be a program designed to introduce subtle genetic modifications to future human generations." She highlighted a section of text. These modifications would target brain regions associated with aggression, independence, and creative problem-solving. In simple terms, they want to make future humans more docile and manageable. "This is outrageous," said the representative from Mars Colony. "Are we certain this intelligence is accurate?" "We've verified it through 3 separate sources," Lee confirmed, "and it aligns with the pattern of control we've been documenting for years." Director Kim raised a hand for silence. "The question now is how we respond. We've been building our shadow capabilities, but we're not yet ready for open confrontation. We need more time," agreed the military representative. "Our hidden shipyards have completed only 30% of the planned fleet, and the adaptive shield technology is still in testing," added the science director. Lee nodded, "which is why we must continue to appear compliant while accelerating our preparations, and why we need better intelligence on Project Genesis specifically." After the meeting, Lee met privately with Officer Park via secure quantum link. His face on the screen looked tired, the strain of his double life evident in his eyes. "I've gained access to secondary security servers," Park reported. "There's heavy encryption on anything related to Project Genesis, but I've identified the main research facility. It's in the Vega system, disguised as a medical research station." "Can you get inside?" Lee asked. Park nodded grimly. "I've arranged a maintenance transfer. I leave tomorrow. If I can access their central database, we'll have everything we need to expose them. Be careful, Han. These beings have centuries of experience in deception." "Always am, Commander." Park attempted a smile. "For Earth." "For Earth," Lee echoed. 3 days later, Officer Park's shuttle approached the Vega research station. He had successfully transferred as part of a maintenance crew, his forged credentials holding under scrutiny. The station orbited Vega's 4th planet, its sleek design masking its true purpose. Park moved through the station carefully, performing actual maintenance tasks while mapping security systems. On the 3rd day, he identified an access point to the central database during a routine power system check. "I'm in position," he whispered into his disguised communicator. "Beginning data extraction." For 17 minutes, Park downloaded files on Project Genesis while monitoring security alerts. The data confirmed their worst fears: detailed plans for introducing genetic modifications into human populations through seemingly beneficial medical treatments. As Park finished the download, an alarm blared through the station. "Security alert. Unauthorized data access in Sector 7. Park ran, clutching the small data device containing evidence that could save humanity's future. He reached his shuttle just ahead of security forces, sealing the door and initiating emergency launch procedures. The shuttle broke free from the station, accelerating toward the system's jump point. Park knew he wouldn't make it. Larger security vessels were already in pursuit, but the data needed to reach Earth. He prepared the emergency transmission capsule, transferring the data and setting coordinates for the nearest human outpost. As his shuttle shuddered under the first warning shots from pursuing vessels, Park sent his final message to Commander Lee. "Genesis confirmed. Evidence secured. Shuttle compromised. Launching data capsule now." He paused, then added, "Keep fighting." Moments later, Park's shuttle experienced a catastrophic life support failure. Official council reports would later attribute it to a tragic maintenance oversight. When Commander Lee received the transmission, she stood alone in her office for a long time. Then she activated the secure line to Director Kim. "We have what we need," she said quietly, "and we've paid the price for it. It's time to move to the next phase." The emergency meeting of Earth's Security Council lasted 14 hours. 23 leaders from Earth and its colonies sat around the table as Commander Lee presented Officer Park's final discovery. The evidence was undeniable: detailed plans for genetic manipulation of future human generations, disguised as medical advancements from the Galactic Council. "This ends today," said Director Kim, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "No more pretending. No more hoping for fair treatment. We begin full resistance." The vote was unanimous. After 5 years of growing evidence, Earth's leaders finally accepted the harsh truth. The Galactic Council saw humanity not as partners, but as threats to be controlled and eventually neutralized. 3 days later, Commander Lee stood in a massive underground facility beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. The facility didn't exist in any official records. Its power signature was masked by advanced technology, making it invisible to Council monitoring systems. "Impressive," said Minister Song as he walked beside Lee through the sprawling complex. Jin Song had once been Earth's Minister of Technology. Now he led the secret resistance effort, coordinating research teams across the planet. "We have 27 facilities like this now," Lee explained, plus 14 more spread across the colonies, all developing technologies the Council doesn't know about. They passed laboratories where scientists worked on guidance systems, weapons platforms, and communication devices. None of these projects appeared in official reports to the Council. On paper, Earth continued its approved development path. "Show me the Earthlight system," Lee requested. Minister Song led her to a specialized communications lab, where teams of engineers worked around a central device. The machine appeared deceptively simple, a silver cube approximately 1 meter on each side. "This is the prototype," Song explained. Engineer Kang's breakthrough. As if summoned by his name, Engineer Kang Hyuk appeared from behind the device. He was young for such responsibility, barely 30, with intense eyes and hands that never seemed to stop moving. "Commander Lee," he bowed slightly. "We're ready for the first full system test." "Explain how it works," Lee requested, "in terms a security officer can understand." Kang smiled. "The Council races all use quantum entanglement for their secure communications. It's incredibly advanced, but they all use the same underlying principles. They believe it's the only viable approach for faster-than-light communication." He patted the silver cube. "Earthlight works differently. Instead of quantum entanglement, we're using quantum state reflection across dimensional boundaries. Based on theories the Council races rejected centuries ago," added Minister Song. "They explored this path briefly, but abandoned it as inefficient." "And they were right," Kang continued. "The approach is inefficient by conventional standards, but humans have always excelled at making inefficient systems work through creative solutions. We've combined old Earth analog technologies with advanced computational methods that the Council races would never consider pairing. The result," Song said proudly, "is a communication network the Council cannot detect or intercept because they're not looking for it. They don't believe it can exist. They believe we're primitive because our civilization is younger," Minister Song added during a secure briefing later that day. "Their arrogance blinds them to our capacity to innovate. They expect us to follow their technological path exactly, never considering we might find different solutions." The Earthlight network became operational 3 months later. Secure communication pods were secretly installed on all human colonies and outposts, creating an invisible web of resistance coordination. In another facility beneath the Mariana Trench, Engineer Kang led a different project. Commander Lee visited regularly, watching as the team refined their second major breakthrough. "Adaptive shielding," Kang explained as they observed a test chamber. Inside, a small metal sphere withstood energy blasts that would have vaporized conventional materials. "We've combined reverse-engineered Council shield technology with principles from Earth music theory." "Music theory?" Lee raised an eyebrow. Kang nodded enthusiastically. "Council shields operate on fixed harmonic frequencies, effective but predictable. Our system constantly shifts its resonance patterns based on algorithmic progressions inspired by human music compositions. The shield isn't stronger than theirs, but it adapts unpredictably." The resistance spread quietly through human colonies. On Proxima Centauri, mining teams built hidden facilities in abandoned tunnels. At Jupiter's industrial platforms, engineers secretly modified manufacturing systems to produce components for resistant ships. Research stations throughout the solar system became development centers for specialized technologies. On Mars Colony, the largest human settlement beyond Earth, Governor Rio established an underground training facility where soldiers learned combat techniques specifically designed against Council species. The facility was buried beneath an approved agricultural dome, its energy signature masked by the legitimate operations above. "Learn their weaknesses," Governor Rio instructed the fighters. Each Council species evolved under different conditions. Different strengths mean different vulnerabilities. The resistance movement operated under a strict principle: maintain normal appearance. On the surface, humans continued to follow Council regulations and protocols. They complained about restrictions but complied. They submitted required reports and data. They maintained the illusion of a species gradually accepting its subordinate role. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, humanity prepared. At the Galactic Council headquarters, reports of minor irregularities in human activities began accumulating. Efficiency at certain mining operations dropped slightly. Power consumption at several research stations showed unusual patterns. Shipping manifests occasionally contained small discrepancies. High Commander Vorex reviewed these reports during a meeting of the Containment Committee. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he considered the data. "These inefficiencies are concerning," said Counselor Trell. "Perhaps the humans are detecting our influence." "Unlikely," replied Vorex. "Their technological capacity remains carefully controlled. Our observers report no significant deviations from approved development paths." "Their behavior has changed," noted Representative Mox. "They complain less about restrictions. They accept delays more readily." "They're adapting to their circumstances," Vorex said dismissively. "Just as we predicted. Their emotional resistance is giving way to practical acceptance of their position. I recommend increased monitoring regardless," said Grand Minister Ilara. "These irregularities, while minor, form a pattern." Vorex made a gesture of reluctant agreement. "Increase monitoring, but there's no cause for alarm. Humans lack the sophistication to perceive our strategy. Their historical records show they've never united effectively, even against threats from their own kind. They certainly cannot unite against a threat they cannot fully comprehend." Back on Earth, Commander Lee received regular updates from her network of operatives. Most crucial were the reports from Analyst Choi, who continued her work in the communications hub of Earth's embassy on the Council Station. "The Council has increased monitoring," Choi reported via Earthlight Network, "but they've detected nothing significant. Their primary focus remains Project Genesis. They believe they have at least 15 years before implementation. They're underestimating us," Lee told Director Kim during their weekly secure meeting. "Just as we hoped." "How long until we're ready?" Kim asked. "Minister Song reports the fleet will reach minimum operational capacity in 8 months," Lee replied. "Engineer Kang needs at least that long to complete the defensive systems. Governor Ryu's forces require similar time for full preparation." And the Council's timeline. "They're planning to send a peacekeeping fleet to Earth in approximately 12 months, officially to protect us from pirate activities, actually to establish direct control over our major defense systems." Kim nodded gravely. "Then we have our deadline. 8 months to prepare. We'll only get one chance at this." "One will be enough," Lee said confidently. "They expect submission. They'll face revolution instead." As Lee left the meeting, she received a message from Engineer Kang. "Breakthrough achieved. Adaptive shielding now operating at 94% efficiency, beginning production phase." Across the solar system and beyond, similar messages arrived from other resistance cells. Humanity was awakening to the threat and responding in a way the Council never anticipated, not with emotional outbursts or disorganized rebellion, but with methodical, creative preparation for a fight the Council didn't know was coming. In his private chambers on the Council Station, High Commander Vorex reviewed the latest containment reports with satisfaction. "Everything proceeds according to plan," he told his advisors. "The humans remain unaware of their true situation. Soon, they will be fully integrated into the proper hierarchy of species." He had no way of knowing that every word he spoke was being recorded by systems he couldn't detect and transmitted through networks he didn't believe could exist, to humans who understood his plans better than he could possibly imagine. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed under soft blue lights as representatives from 27 species gathered for an emergency session. The usual calm and order had given way to raised voices and agitated movements. "The monitoring stations in Sector 12 have confirmed it," Counselor Trull announced, his scales flashing anxious yellow. "Human ships have been detected moving through restricted zones near the Arcturus Gateway." Displays around the chamber showed grainy images of Earth vessels traveling through areas that had been specifically forbidden under containment protocols. The ships appeared to be standard human cargo vessels, but they moved with unusual precision and carried unknown modifications. "These violations have increased by 300% over the past month," added Representative Mox, "and we've detected unusual power signatures at 4 of their colony outposts." High Commander Vorex stepped forward, his 4 eyes scanning the gathered representatives. "The pattern is clear. The containment is failing," he declared. "We must accelerate our timeline before the situation deteriorates further." Grand Minister Ilara raised her hand for attention. "Let us not overreact. These could be simple navigation errors or misunderstandings of the protocols." 12 separate incidents are not misunderstandings, Trell countered. "And there's more. Our observers on Earth report unusual activity in their defense sector. Resources being redirected, personnel transfers that don't match their official reports." Vorex's expression hardened. "I have prepared for this possibility. I propose we dispatch the peacekeeping fleet immediately, rather than waiting for the scheduled deployment next year. A show of force could provoke exactly the response we're trying to prevent," Ilara cautioned. "Not force," Vorex corrected smoothly. "Protection. We will inform Earth that increased pirate activity necessitates additional security measures. The fleet will establish orbit around Earth and its major colonies to ensure their safety. Once in position, our ships can neutralize any defensive capabilities before the humans realize our true purpose." The Council voted. Despite some reservations, the majority approved the plan. Within 24 hours, a fleet of 60 Council vessels departed for the Sol system, led by the massive dreadnought Celestial Authority. Fleet Commander Draz stood on the bridge of the Celestial Authority as it prepared to exit the jump point near Jupiter. He was a veteran of 3 campaigns against hostile species and viewed this mission as a simple policing action. "Prepare the diplomatic broadcast," he ordered. "Standard protocol. We're here to protect human interests from outside threats." "Yes, Commander," his communications officer replied. "Earth authorities have acknowledged our approach, but have not yet responded to our protection offer." Draz smiled thinly. "They will accept. They have no choice." The Council fleet emerged from the jump point in perfect formation, 60 ships ranging from massive dreadnoughts to nimble patrol craft. They moved past Jupiter's orbit, sensors scanning for the expected human defense vessels, mainly outdated ships with limited capabilities, according to intelligence reports. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, confusion in his voice. "I'm detecting nothing." "Explain," Draz demanded. "No human defense ships in position. No orbital platforms where our charts indicate they should be. It's as if their defense system simply isn't there." Draz frowned. "Scan again. Full spectrum." As the fleet approached Earth orbit, tension grew on the Celestial Authority's bridge. Earth appeared defenseless, exactly as expected, yet somehow wrong. "Entering standard orbit," the navigation officer reported. "Still no response from Earth authorities to our protection offer." "Send it again," Draz ordered. "Make it clear that we—" A sudden alert cut him off as sensor panels flashed warnings across the bridge. "Energy surge," the sensor officer shouted, massive power signatures appearing throughout the system. Around the Council fleet, space itself seemed to ripple and distort. Where emptiness had existed moments before, dozens of human vessels now appeared, as if materializing from nowhere. They ranged from small, nimble fighters to large battleships of a design no Council observer had ever reported. "Impossible," Draz whispered. "Where did they come from?" "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," the communications officer reported. On the main screen, the image of Commander Sunli appeared, wearing a uniform no Council representative had ever seen, the dark blue and silver of the Earth Defense Force. "This is Commander Lee of the Earth Defense Force," she stated calmly. "We appreciate your concern for our security, but we respectfully decline your assistance. Your fleet has entered sovereign Earth space without proper authorization. Please withdraw to beyond the orbit of Jupiter within the next 30 minutes." Draz stared at the screen in shock before regaining his composure. "This is an unauthorized communication. Earth has no independent defense force under Council protocols." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their largest vessels. Prepare tow." Before he could finish, 3 small human ships accelerated toward the Celestial Authority at speeds that should have been impossible for their size. The Council gunners fired, expecting easy targets, but the shots passed harmlessly through the human vessels. Holographic decoys. The weapons officer realized too late. From a different vector, the real attack came. Human vessels deployed strange, shifting energy fields that Council sensors couldn't properly track. Their weapons didn't follow the expected patterns of frontal assault, but instead targeted specific, seemingly random points on the Council ships. Draz watched in growing horror as two of his support vessels reported critical systems failures after taking only minimal damage. The human attacks weren't trying to destroy their ships outright. They were precisely targeting propulsion systems, weapons controls, and communications arrays. How do they know exactly where to strike? He demanded as the Celestial Authority shuddered under a precision hit that disabled its main targeting computer. Across the Sol system, the carefully planned human counterattack unfolded. Engineer Kang's phase shift technology had hidden Earth's true defense capabilities until the moment of revelation. The adaptive shielding that Council scientists had deemed theoretically impossible deflected the most powerful Council weapons. Meanwhile, on 12 key Council worlds, human resistance cells activated simultaneously. On the mining world of Ordox, the automated processing plants that supplied critical metals to Council shipyards suddenly shut down, their control systems corrupted by code that had lain dormant for months. On Teller Prime, a major Council communications hub, all quantum transmitters failed simultaneously, cutting off coordination between Council forces. At the luxury resort moon of Nebulon, where many Council elites kept their wealth, banking systems mysteriously reset, temporarily freezing trillions in assets. On the agricultural world of Ventax, harvesting machines stopped in their fields, threatening food supplies to major Council worlds. These weren't random attacks. Each target had been carefully selected based on intelligence gathered over years, focusing on systems that would cause maximum disruption with minimum harm to civilian populations. Back in the Council chamber, emergency alerts flooded in from across Council space. High Commander Vorix moved from screen to screen, his 4 eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered as reports of coordinated disruptions continued to arrive. How could they coordinate this? Their communication technology is monitored and controlled. Grand Minister Ilara approached him, her expression grave. It appears we have severely underestimated the humans. In Earth orbit, the Council fleet was in disarray. 7 ships had been completely disabled by the precise human attacks. Others struggled with cascading system failures as Earth vessels continued their methodical assault. On the bridge of the Celestial Authority, Fleet Commander Draz faced a decision he had never imagined. Surrender or destruction. Sir, his second-in-command urged, we must withdraw. Their targeting is too precise. They know our weaknesses. Draz stared at the tactical display where human ships moved in patterns that defied conventional military doctrine. They didn't attack in waves or standard formations, but adapted constantly, as if each ship operated independently yet somehow in perfect coordination with the others. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How could they develop these technologies without our knowledge? How could they coordinate across such distances without us detecting their communications? As if in answer, Commander Lee's face appeared on his screen again. Fleet Commander Draz, your vessels are disabled or contained. You have 10 minutes remaining to withdraw your functioning ships. After that time, we will be forced to take more decisive action. Draz looked around his damaged bridge, at the reports of failures across his fleet, and made the only possible choice. Prepare for withdrawal, he ordered. All functioning vessels to escort damaged ships to the jump point. As the Council fleet limped away from Earth, Commander Lee stood in the control center of Earth Defense Headquarters beneath the Pacific Ocean. Around her, officers monitored the retreating Council vessels and received updates from resistance cells across Council space. Phase 1 complete, reported Minister Song. All targets achieved with minimal casualties. Lee nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction before focusing on what came next. The Council will regroup. They'll send a larger force once they recover from the shock. "Let them come," Director Kim said, joining them at the main display. "Earth is ready." 3 weeks after the Council fleet retreated from Earth, the human counteroffensive was ready. In underground command centers across Earth and its colonies, final preparations were completed. Resistance cells throughout Council space confirmed their readiness. Commander Sun Lee stood on the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's most advanced battleship. The vessel had been built in secret beneath the lunar surface, one of dozens constructed over the past 5 years. "All ships report ready," Commander, Lieutenant Min said. Lee nodded. "Send the signal." Throughout the command center, officers activated secure communications channels to Earth's hidden fleet. The message was simple: Operation Dawn begins now. Within minutes, human ships emerged from hiding places throughout Council space. Some had been disguised as asteroids. Others had hidden in gas giant atmospheres or in the shadow of moons. They appeared simultaneously near 27 critical Council military installations. The Council, still reeling from their defeat at Earth and the ongoing disruptions to their infrastructure, was caught completely unprepared. Human vessels didn't target civilian centers or populated areas. Instead, they struck military installations with surgical precision, disabling weapons platforms, shipyards, and command centers. At the Council military headquarters on Arcturus Prime, Admiral Xen barely had time to sound the alarm before human ships appeared in orbit. Their weapons targeted communication arrays and defense systems with impossible accuracy. "How do they know exactly where to strike?" he demanded as his command center lost contact with defensive outposts one by one. The answer, had he known it, lay in 5 years of meticulous intelligence gathering. Every Council military installation had been mapped in detail by human operatives or Council allies who had grown disillusioned with the hierarchy. As the military offensive unfolded, Minister Jin Song led a different kind of attack. From the diplomatic vessel Harmony, he broadcast evidence of Council deception to all worlds in the galaxy. The transmissions used multiple technologies, including the Earthlight network that Council systems couldn't detect. "People of the Galactic Council," Song's message began, his calm voice reaching billions across hundreds of worlds. "For too long, you have been told that the Council exists to promote peace and cooperation between species. Today, we share the truth." The broadcast included the evidence Officer Park had died to obtain, detailed plans for the genetic modification of humans, along with similar programs that had been implemented against other species over centuries. Earth was not the first victim of the Council's containment protocols, Song explained. "Many species before us have been manipulated, controlled, and genetically altered to maintain the power of a select few Council races. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On worlds throughout Council space, populations that had long accepted their place in the galactic hierarchy suddenly questioned everything they had been told. Protest movements erupted on a dozen planets. Government officials faced demands for answers. Most significantly, several Council member species whose own development had been secretly stunted by containment protocols openly sided with Earth. The Trilaxians, a species known for their scientific brilliance, but politically marginalized for centuries, pledged their support. The Vordans, whose military capabilities had been systematically restricted, offered their remaining ships to the human cause. The Neferi, whose unique empathic abilities had made them targets of Council manipulation, provided critical intelligence about Council leadership movements. High Commander Vorex called an emergency session of the Inner Council on their capital world of the Lumina. As the 7 most powerful members gathered in their secure chamber, alarms sounded throughout the massive city station. Human ships have been detected approaching Illumina. An aide reported, panic evident in his voice. 15 vessels, including what appears to be their flagship. "Activate all defensive systems," Vorex ordered. "Prepare for—" "Sir," the aide interrupted, "they're not in attack formation. They're broadcasting a request for diplomatic talks." On the bridge of the Defiance, Commander Lee prepared to lead the human delegation to the Council capital. She wore a formal diplomatic uniform rather than battle armor, a deliberate choice to signal her intentions. "Are you certain this is wise?" Director Kim asked via secure channel from Earth. "They could attempt to capture or kill you." "They could try," Lee replied. "But they won't succeed. And this needs to be done face to face." The human delegation landed at the main diplomatic port on Illumina. Despite the tense situation, protocols were observed. Honor guards from both sides stood at attention as Commander Lee led her team into the massive council chamber. High Commander Vorax and the inner council waited on their elevated platform. Their postures conveyed anger, confusion, and in some cases, fear. "You have committed acts of war against the Galactic Council," Vorax began formally. "You have violated containment protocols and attacked military installations across Council space." Lee stood calmly before them. "You established those protocols without our knowledge or consent. You plan to alter our genetic makeup to make us more controllable. You never treated Earth as an equal member of this council." She gestured to the viewing screens around the chamber, where reports showed continued fighting at several locations and growing civil unrest on council worlds. "We could destroy your centers of power," she explained to the assembled council. "Our ships are positioned near critical infrastructure throughout your territory. We have allies among species you've oppressed for centuries. Your military forces are in disarray." Lee paused, letting the reality of the situation sink in. "Instead, we offer a new beginning." From her aide, she accepted a data tablet and stepped forward to place it on the council table. "These are our terms. They are non-negotiable." Grand Minister Ilara picked up the tablet and read aloud. "Complete equality for all species within council space. Transparent governance with rotating leadership. Full disclosure of all containment protocols past and present. Immediate cessation of all genetic modification programs. Accountability for those who authorized such programs." Councillor Trell rose in anger. "This is absurd. You would destroy thousands of years of galactic order based on your primitive notions of equality." "The current order is based on deception and control," Lee replied evenly. "It was always doomed to fail. We're offering a chance to build something better." The debate raged for hours. 3 council races, those with the most to lose from the new arrangement, attempted to rally military resistance. But faced with a unified front of humans and allied species, with their own populations increasingly demanding change, they ultimately had no choice but to accept the new reality. 6 months later, Commander Lee stood in the rebuilt council chamber. The raised platform that had once separated the inner council from others was gone, replaced by a circular arrangement where representatives from all species sat as equals. 32 worlds had signed the new Galactic Charter, with more applying for membership. The transition had not been entirely smooth. Centuries of hierarchy could not be undone in months, but the foundation for a new order had been laid. "You feared our emotions," Commander Lee addressed the assembled representatives. "But our capacity for anger is matched by our capacity for forgiveness. Our talent for war is balanced by our desire for peace. You tried to contain these qualities, but they are precisely what the galaxy needs." She gestured to the new charter displayed prominently in the chamber. "No species should fear containment or control. No civilization should have its potential stunted. Together, we can build a galaxy where diversity of thought and approach is valued rather than suppressed." As the session concluded, former High Commander Vorax approached Lee. He had been removed from military command, but served now as a regular representative of his people. The experience had visibly humbled him. His 4 eyes no longer held their former arrogance. "I still don't fully understand," he said quietly. "How did you defeat us so thoroughly? Our technology was superior. Our experience spanned thousands of years. Our containment protocols had succeeded with 17 other species." Lee considered the question carefully. "You made a fundamental error," she finally replied. "You studied humans as subjects to be managed. You analyzed our history, our biology, our technology, but always from a position of assumed superiority." She smiled slightly. "You should have known us as equals. Had you approached Earth with genuine partnership rather than containment, we might have shared our unique perspectives freely. Instead, you forced us to demonstrate them through resistance. And now, Vorax asked, what happens to those of us who implemented the old system? Justice without vengeance, Lee replied. Accountability without destruction. That's the human way at its best. And now, it becomes the galactic way as well. As they parted, Lee looked out at the vast space station that housed representatives from across the galaxy. 5 years ago, she had stood in this same spot as Captain Lee, awed by her first glimpse of the wider galactic community. She had felt small then, a representative of a junior species joining an established order. Now she understood that humanity's relative youth among the stars was not a weakness but a strength. They had brought fresh perspectives, creativity, and a fierce determination to be treated as equals, qualities the galaxy had desperately needed. The new galactic charter would ensure that no species would again face the containment protocols that Earth had overcome. The galaxy would be stronger for it, more diverse, more adaptable, more just. And if new threats emerged from the darkness between the stars, they would face not a hierarchy of competing interests, but a true federation of worlds standing together. The end.